Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to a pair of viewer replays. Today I have a pair of B1 games to show you, and they both landed in my inbox relatively close together. And I was flicking through and I thought, you know, why not? They're both very good games, so let's give them an airing. Now the B1 is not loved, I'll put it that way, and that's mostly because of the gun. The actual machine itself, as we can see Stalwolvie driving it here, it moves alright. It's actually got a surprisingly good mobility considering it's a 30-ton tank. It turns very well, and it really is only the utterly substandard gun that lets it down. It actually has the same gun as its predecessor, a 47mm anti-tank gun. It's actually, in real life, it was one of the best anti-tank guns mounted on a tank of the early war. In fact, the B1 was one of the best tanks of the early war. It's just the French did not use the machines they had in a way to combat the Germans effectively. But in World of Tanks terms, it's not good at all. It's got 66 average AP pen and 98 APCR pen. And the HE, well, 47mm HE is barely even worth talking about. So he did have one tank with him, but that guy announced his intentions in chat to just suicide, and he did, so okay. He also took a bit of damage there from the Chihi, which did not actually register, and I don't know why. And there's another shot from the Stahlwollvieh, who was not using the derp gun, clearly. And actually the Stahlwollvieh, I have to say, that's it's kind of the opposite of the B1, where it's a decent tank, but not particularly a good gun. Which also is the case with the AMX-38 there, although some would argue it's not even really a decent tank. But the Stahlwollvieh is, well, its guns have very similar stats to the guns you find on the Hetzer. But the machine they're attached to is considerably worse than the Hetzer, in pretty much most regards. So, I almost said roast McGards there. No, I don't know. So, yeah, when we talk about whether a tank is good or bad, it usually is that synergy we're talking about, because you get something like, say, the Comet and the T-43, and they both have very similar pen on their guns. But people generally regard the Comet as better than the T-43 because it has other characteristics that make it much nicer to drive and capable of doing more than the T-43 is. So it's not, you know, the pen of the gun is not the be-all, end-all, but the fact that this is a relatively slow heavy tank means that it can't do what, say, a Panzer III can do at the same tier with very similar AP pen. In fact, I think it's only one more AP pen than this gun has. Although the Panzer III also has far superior APCR penetration to this as well, which helps, alongside the excellent mobility. So that's why the Panzer III can cope with regular matchmaking, whereas this thing really can't, and it doesn't get regular matchmaking these days, fortunately. Back when I played it first, it was not the case at all, and I think when I first did a review of the B2, which was a long while ago, I made the mistake of talking about the B1 having regular matchmaking, because when I'd played it, it had. Anyway, Stalwolvie here is about to make a bit of a mistake. Now, I think he just reacts too slowly there, and it is very unfortunate for the Su-85B that he gets ammo racked, but he would have taken a hit either way. And I think, honestly, he did turn in time for Stahlwollvie to have an idea of which direction he was turning in. But anyway, he just didn't react fast enough, ended up blocking the guy, and unfortunately that meant he died. However, there's no time for regrets. The battle is still very much in progress. And although the Su-85B driver, understandably a bit annoyed, I honestly think Stahlwollvie just should have, you know, just apologised. But whatever, sometimes these things happen in the heat of battle, and you can't, because you're focused on other things, you don't quite process the actual event. And you know, this happens to me all the time, and I have the benefit of being able to sit here with replays, seeing what's going on, and being able to, you know, go back and forth in slow-mo when possible in battle. Anyway, the enemy Lux, who was seen coming around the south, has sensibly flanked, but Stalwolvie had his armour turned this way, and although he did take a couple of pens, because, you know, the 3cm gun on that thing has almost as much pen with its AP as this does with APCR, although the Lux is, you know, it's stout. It has stout matchmaking, so it's not really a fair comparison. This was excellent matchmaking for the Lux. In fact, the next battle is going to have a Lux as well, who doesn't fare nearly as well. But he only takes a couple of hits, and the fact that he is in a 30-ton heavy tank versus whatever the Lux weighs, I'm guessing it's not anything like that much, maybe half that, he was able to get a nice bit of ramming damage in there as well. So they have fended off the team that was attacking from the north, or the remnants of the team that were attacking from the north, and the fact that Stalwolvie came back to defend was absolutely the right thing to do. He was paying attention to the minimap very well there. However, he makes a bit of a mistake here. Now, he knows about side scraping, and I'm going to say he knows about side scraping because it's exactly what he does after he makes that initial mistake. He does get very lucky in that that shot takes his tracks when it might have killed him, but the next shot bounces off his side armour, and his angling there is just about perfect. So maybe it's a new technique to him, maybe it just took a moment to realise his mistake, to realise that he got lucky, and so therefore he adjusted accordingly. But that's why you side scrape, and this is actually one of the machines that at lower tiers, and there are not that many of them, but at tier 4 particularly, there's this, there's the B2, there's the Matilda, there's the AMX40, and maybe sometimes the DW2, depending on what you're facing. But they are all very good machines to learn side scraping in, although not nearly half as good as learning to do it in a KV1, because that thing's got a very bouncy turret in addition to its hull armour. So we're now down to, well, basically 2 versus 1, because the Stalwolvie, he's not done a lot this battle. I'm going to guess the Stalwolvie player is reasonably new at this. He's fired 2 shots, done no damage, and although now would be a perfect time to get moving and flank round the north, he's just going to sit there for the remainder of the battle. So it is 2 versus 1. However, the fact that Stalwolvie is coming up from this side and the Lux is in slightly further to the east, he's in a different position entirely, means that they have a better chance of taking this Su-85B, because if they popped up from the same location, the Su-85B has fewer places to cover, basically. And at that point it just becomes a case of, well, who wants to take the hit first in order to get shots back at him. But the fact that they can divide his attention works really well in their favour. And as you're going to see, well, the guy stops, turns, makes a snapshot, or he's about to, there we go, at Stalwolvie, which misses, and the Lux gets the kill. So that's 8 kills, not bad. An ace tanker, high caliber, and a top gun. And if this weren't a tier 4 battle, obviously it would be a Radley Walters medal as well. I'm doing well today. It's actually my like 6th attempt recording. I had a recording that was fine, and then Audacity ate about 10 seconds of it, which was a bit annoying because, yeah, it was when I was watching it through on the editor that I realised there was a big jump in the middle for no reason. Anyway, 1450 damage, 8 kills, 1144 base XP in a tier 4 game. That was, I think we can honestly say, a carry. Not a flawless carry, because obviously there was a few mistakes made there, and he did get a bit lucky, but honestly I think when you're driving a B1, or really any tank, to get those kind of results, usually there are at least a couple of lucky moments where you need the RNG to fall on your side, because if it fell otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching the games that you were watching. So that's the first game, and we've actually got one that's a little bit better coming up. Next up, we have this game from Harpuncha, and while Stalwolvie's name apparently translates as something to do with, it's like steel wool cow? Something like that. This one I have no idea. It's something to do with harpoons. That's all I've been able to find out. But hopefully I'm at least saying it correctly. Anyway, this is actually going to be a tougher battle, even though, again, top tier matchmaking. Just because of the opponents that Harpuncha here is going to be facing. There is an enemy B1, and to be fair there was last time, but Stalwolvie didn't have to face them directly. There's also a Matilda, which is, if he comes across that, he's going to have a very tough time. A pair of Hetzers and a T40, and the Hetzers, well, it's the combination of the armour and the gun. With the T40, it could just be the gun, depending on what gun they have. Now, back when I played this through for the very first time, well, the French lines generally were it was the first nation that I really went at. And I played the B1 back before there was even +2, -2 matchmaking as a general thing, let alone the +1, -2 that this gets. So my records, I haven't played it since then, and I keep thinking to myself, maybe I'll go back and rebuy this thing and have another go. But I just know that if I did, I'd get frustrated with it, because the gun is not good at all. And I might be able to improve my win rate, I might be able to improve my stats for this particular machine, but I'm not sure it's worth the hassle, to be honest. So we've already got a friendly Matilda, who apparently isn't that friendly because he's managed to turn blue already. I'm not quite sure how he managed that. He's not team killed anybody, but he's damaged them enough to turn blue. But that's not particularly a good start, and although Harpuncha here has just ploughed in, and he's just being aggressive, abusing his armor, and he was hopefully, I'm guessing, I mean, he might just have been going totally gung-ho, but I'm guessing he was paying attention to the minimap and seeing that the B1 was in the north and the T40 was in the north, and that other tanks were elsewhere. I mean, the Matilda's in the middle, but they have come across a Hetzer, although it isn't a Hetzer with the derp gun, and they also got the drop on him, so they were able to get shots on his side armor, and it really is only the front of the Hetzer that is especially problematic for this gun. If you can get the drop on a Hetzer and get the sides and rear, then generally speaking they're not that tough. It's when it's top tier frontally, the Hetzer can be a real problem. And in fact, back again reminiscing back when I first played this, and for a long time there was a reason why I didn't play the B2 either. It was the era of 105mm heat spam before the great heat nerf, when these low tier 105mm guns, down to including tier 3, because the T82 could mount a 105mm, they had 150mm of pen, and they could do what, 350 damage per shot. So Hetzers and T40s and T82s were just running around the place one-shotting everything, including B1s and B2s, and it made it not very fun, at least not to play against. I'm sure anybody that's been playing since that era will have at least indulged in that guilty pleasure a couple of times. Anyway, he swung back round because the cap is being pressured quite badly, and here's that Matilda. Now fortunately he is reasonably low health. He has already taken some damage, and it's at this point that Harpuncha reaches for the APCR, because he really doesn't have a lot of choice. There aren't a lot of places where you could pen a Matilda, even if you have the sides and rear, with the regular ammo. Now he's able to kill that guy without really taking a lot of damage. In fact, he only takes one shot of damage in return, which is very useful. But crucially, he forgets to change back to AP, and I'm pretty sure this was a mistake, that he didn't mean to keep his APCR loaded. Because the very next thing that turns up is a Stuart who, yeah, I looked it up, it is a 30-ton tank, the B1. I was right when I said it was 20 to 30 tons, so it was actually more towards, way more towards 30 tons than 20. So if you're going to ram into one in a Stuart, it's not going to go well for you. Meanwhile, that was a T2 Light who was never going to hurt him, but the T40 might have. But they both kind of ploughed in looking like they were also going to jump down on him, and then they just kind of sat up there to fire at other targets. So I don't know if they got distracted by a shiny thing, or it seemed like whatever it was they killed was a more important target, but either way it gave Harpuncha 3 shots on both of them, and the T40's armour really wasn't much of a challenge, but the gun might have been problematic. However, now it's a half health Hetzer, but you're going to see exactly why he is going to wish he'd kept some of that APCR. Even going through the low front plate, he is absolutely struggling to make any impact on this guy whatsoever. And the fact with the Hetzer is, apart from the driver's port, which is a bit of an unreliable, at this range he might have made it work, but it's not the easiest way to go. But the Hetzer, well, I think that's the derp gun, and I think he was firing AP, and that was bouncing because the AP from the derp gun doesn't have a lot of penetration. So he was just able to track the guy and casually drive around, and if he'd been firing HE ammo, or even if he'd been firing some heat ammo, that would have been a problem. But as it was, that was well, it was a dangerous tank, but it was a less skilled player driving the dangerous tank, and that automatically makes it just less dangerous overall. However, this B1 is full health, and so therefore this could be a much bigger problem. And you'd think the Hetzer would have been the thing to be worried about, but no, a full health B1 turning up is really the last thing he wanted to see right now. There is one ally left alive, the Panzer IV-D, but I actually think the Panzer IV... I can't tell if it's the right call, and this is some nice weak spot knowledge being displayed here, by the way, going for the commander's hatch. But I think the Panzer IV-D, he may have made the right call in trying to cap, because the B1 being here probably would have struggled to get back in time to decap had Harpuncha gotten unlucky and actually died. But as it was, enough of the enemy B1's shots bounced, and he was able to make his shots count, that he actually came out on top of that engagement. Although it was a fairly close run thing, even so. And as you can see, he actually did a little bit more damage, got a little bit more XP, and walked away with 10 kills. So we've had an honorary Pools medal to go with the honorary Radley Walters. So all in all, I think that was a very good pair of matches. And it goes to show you that even a terrible tank, or, well, maybe terrible is a little harsh, but even a not very good tank such as the B1 can have its moments. And unfortunately, the moments are probably few and far between enough that most people are not going to enjoy playing this thing. But all the same, yeah, I think you've seen today the best of what the B1 can do, and it really does depend on it being top tier. But even so, you still have to apply a bit of brain power, and sometimes you have to rely on a bit of luck as well. So if you enjoyed this foray into low tier French tanks that you don't often see, you can leave any comments below, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.